This is American First Patriot Podcast. Our motto, defending freedom and liberty. We put God first in politics second. Welcome to the show. I'm your Patriot host, Chauncey Brown. Today is Red Friday, America. Please remember everyone deployed, and in the future, if you can, wear red. Support all of our soldiers, and we also want to thank all of those who have served. Today, we have a very exciting and interesting show. We have a candidate that is running for Congress in North Carolina, and he's going to talk about today the pushback he's received from the local and state GOP in North Carolina and the violations of possible corruption that might have transpired during this campaign season and prior campaign season. Max Beckwith is running for 7th Congressional District. He is a combat veteran, small business owner, and constitutionalist, a blue-collar worker, ready to represent the great people of North Carolina. That states it's time for the National GOP to take an actual conservatism stand on not just pay lip service. Ideals like fiscal accountability and adding criminal culpability legislation for politicians who abuse their power and our money. That says we need strong leaders to take a stance against cronyism within both parties. Stand up, stay true to conservative ideas, and return our nation back to the true ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let me bring on to the show my dear friend, combat veteran, and American First candidate, U.S. Congress, North Carolina, District 7, Max Beckwith. Thank you, Max, for coming on today.
Thanks, Chauncey. I appreciate you having me.
You know, Max, I know that we have a lot to unpack. For my new listeners, give a brief background on who you are. I did some of it. And then we can get into, if you want, we'll go right into the issues that you have faced in your elections. And if we have time, then we'll talk about some national issues. But I think talking about possible violations and corruption within the GOP, I think, is probably the most important thing to talk about today, because not only you, but other GOP candidates across the country have been receiving the shaft from the GOP. What say you?
No, 100% accurate. And, yeah, you did a really good job on plugging me there, so I appreciate it. So, yeah, my name is Max. On the ballot, it'll have Southworth-Beckwith because my name is really long. My parents are old school and just a whole bunch of stuff, but I just use Beckwith because that's what I've always gone by. But just to not be confused with the two names instead of just the one that I use. Anyways, yeah, so I ran initially when I first announced September of last year that I was going to be the anti-corruption candidate. What that means is corruption, weeding out the corruption not just at the federal level, but state, local, wherever I saw it, call a spade, and put the limelight on those that are honestly harming our constitutional republic, our democratic process, and disenfranchising a lot of voters. I mean, we saw it in 2020. I mean, there's people I talk to now that they're so disenfranchised because it's 2020, they don't even want to vote in 2022 because they're afraid it's going to happen again. And I initially was like trying to say, well, no, we're solid, we're going to be good. But then last Saturday, I was at the District 7 convention. So for those that don't know, you have your county representatives, executive committee, your chairman for your county GOP, then you have district GOP, then you have state GOP. So the District 7 GOP, which encompasses New Hanover County, Brunswick County, Pender County, Columbus County, Robinson County, Bladen County and the majority of Cumberland County, our incumbent Rhino Rouser was a keynote speaker because obviously he's the incumbent congressman, so sure, whatever. The District 7 Chair, Joe Agovino, when he was brought up and introduced as District 7 Chair to introduce David Rouser as keynote speaker, he was given his platitudes of what he'd done in Congress, which is fine. He's a sitting congressman. That's fine. But then when he introduced him as, and I quote, "It's my pleasure to introduce our current congressman and our future congressman, David Rouser," end quote. That's an issue because per the rules of organization for the GOP, both state and nationally, they're not supposed to, specifically people in executive authority within the GOP, are not supposed to endorse any candidate in a primary. By stating that Rouser is going to be our future congressman, he essentially gave away, without any rights or consideration of the constituents and the voters in North Carolina's 7th Congressional District, he essentially unilaterally gave the entire 7th District's endorsement to David Rouser. This is a violation of Article 9, Section F, 2021 Rules and Plans of Organization. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, I called him on it at the end. I said, hey, you kind of hypocrisy. You're not supposed to endorse anybody. You gave Rouser an endorsement. His response to me was something along the lines of, well, as District 7 Chair, I found it was the right thing for me to do in my purview, blah, blah, blah. And I pushed back on it, and this is a direct quote. He said, after I pushed back on it, he said, well, as District 7 Chair, I didn't have to let you speak, but I did, end quote. So at a District 7 GOP convention, he pretty much stated that he could have not allowed a legitimate Republican challenger in a primary to speak at the convention. Not only that, yes, Rhino Rouser was a keynote speaker. He got like 10 plus minutes to speak, which, okay, fine, keynote speaker plus time but he didn't talk about the GOP. He talked about he stumped for himself. And then when I got all the other candidates had like 2 minutes, and you would think that as the challenger to the guy who just spoke, maybe not the entire time because I'm not a keynote speaker, but maybe 5 minutes instead of 2. Nope, I had 2 minutes like every other person down to the local level, which I found interesting. But the final thing that District 7 Chair Joe Agovino did was he told me that jovially that, well, you're young, you stay in it, you'll maybe if you don't win this time, when you don't win this time, you can go for something else next time, maybe something a little more smaller, or who knows, maybe this again, but stay in the game. And by this time he's starting to walk away. He's like, stay in the game long enough and you'll learn how to play it. So I stewed on it for about 24 hours, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to stand by my principles and what I ran on to be the anti-corruption candidate. And so I filed an ICC'd every district, or every county chair in my district chair himself, because he's the defendant, the state chairman, and I also CC'd Ronna McDaniel, the RNC chairwoman, and I sent it up the ladder that I filed a motion for cause to have the chairmanship of the District 7 chair to be vacated for violations of said Article 9, Section F, and arguably because he violated Section F, Section E, subsection 2 applies, which is the party disloyalty clause, which would be a removal of his from office, but also GOP for no less than, I think, 6 months, no greater than 5 years. So I put that forward. I also argue that in his conversation with me, he essentially tried to coerce, intimidate me by stating what he said. So I argued that he also violated Title 52 of the Fair Voting Rights Act, which is the integrity in voting civil rights legislation that he violated. So I also CC'd and sent it up to the Department of Justice for review. We have to, as elected officials or as people wanting to represent the district or represent any district or a state or as president, we have to weed out the corruption. Donald Trump dumped on cleaning out the swamp, but unfortunately it didn't get done because everyone wants to poke fingers to the other party. You can't poke at another party about cleaning up their swamp in their party when you got it in your party. It's like the old homage, don't throw rocks in a glass house.
Mm-hmm.
So I called it out, and it has not made me any friends within the establishment. I'll tell you that right now. But then again, I was never courting their vote anyways. So,
Max, for those that are tuning in, you're listening to American First Patriot podcast. We have American First candidate and corruption crime fighter candidate Max Beckwith in the studio. I'm your host, Chauncey Brown. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Representative David Rouser has betrayed conservative values. Rouser is anti-term limits and voted for wasteful liberal spending, funding Planned Parenthood, red flag laws, and voted against veteran benefits. My name is Max Beckwith. I am a small business owner and U.S. Marine, and I am running to replace Rouser as your next representative. Rouser refuses to debate me to defend his record. Visit max4congress.net to learn more and vote Beckwith on May 17th. I am Max Beckwith, candidate for U.S. House, District 7, and I approve this message. Paid for and authorized by Max Beckwith for Congress.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're back. Max Beckwith is talking about the corruption that is within the state GOP party, and he is trying to clean it up, and he's been directly affected by this corruption from the District 7 leader, Joe Agovino. Max, this is a very interesting story, Max, and I hope that it gets national traction. I hope that the Rhino Republicans don't sweep it under the rug, but you're taking the right steps. Before we went to commercial break, I think you mentioned that you shot a letter off to the Department of Justice.
Yes.
Okay, you want to talk about that? Did they respond back yet, or?
No, they haven't responded back yet. I mean, there might not be any investigation, or there might be. I have no idea. It's out of my hands. I just sent it up for referral because, in my honest opinion, he violated Title 52 of the Fair and Integrity Voting Rights Law. So, which is a statute that no one person can threaten, coerce, or intimidate another person to display their vote. So, I would argue that him also giving Rouser's endorsement was a form of coercion because of the political nature, because he essentially superseded the constituents and voters before the primary even ended. So, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, David Rouser, I've been in this in September of last year. This is a guy who uses to debate me. I've asked GOP chairs of different districts to get with him and let's have a debate. But he has refused to respond.
Are you driving, Max? Are you driving, Max?
I am driving, yes.
Yeah, now, because I was wondering why you keep coming in and out. If you can, please pull over because it's breaking up the show, if you can.
Yeah, I can. I was checking my GPS to make sure I was on the right track. So that's why I get cut in and out, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so anyways, so Rouser won't debate me because he has a very unconservative voting record. But the problem is he has not had a primary challenger since 2016. The entire reason I ran was to hold his feet to the fire, but I can't hold his feet to the fire properly when the GOP won't make him debate me. He won't debate me. I said essentially after the District 7's endorsement, I just said it as it is. Rhino incumbent David Rouser is the establishment golden boy that they want to implant into the Congress because he's their get along to go along guy up on Capitol Hill. So he's in the GOP protection program. They won't even the Pender County, which I live in, the chairman was there, and they posted on the Pender County website that after the convention, they put a whole bunch of people up there. They posted a picture of Rouser, but they did post a picture of me. So I called him on it. I was like, hey, how's this exactly fair? He was like, well, we had a photo limit, so we just picked the ones of the locals and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm a local, and you literally posted my challenger's photo without posting me or even giving me a notice or a mention in the post. So it's a number of things that's been going on. I mean, I've been blocked from certain Republican Facebook pages because they're establishment types. I mean, they're not going to be able to sweep it on the rug, though, because I sent it to everybody, and I also sent it to a number of different news outlets and whatnot, and I told them in my email, listen, you're not going to be able to sweep it on the rug. I have solid proof of corruption by the District 7 chair, and you need to get our house in order. Like I said in the beginning, we have to look internally first and clean up our own mess in our own house, weed out the establishment rhinos and swamp features in our own party before we can go throwing stones at the Democrats.
You know, I couldn't agree with you more, Max, that the Republican Party has a great deal of internal work to do. And what you're talking about is systemic. It's happened in New Jersey when I was a municipal chair with the county leadership. This is systemic. I give you a lot of credit for your courage of standing up. But, you know, it's unfortunate that you're trying to run a campaign to represent constituents, and you're being roadblocked by your own political party. That is really sad and shameful. And I hope that as a result of your filing motion, that business as usual will change and that systemic corruption will end, because that is systemic. I've heard it going on in Arizona. You're in North Carolina, in Florida. I've heard the same thing all over the country with candidates running for office, is that their local GOP is roadblocking them for whatever their favorite candidate is. And that, whether
California,
it's
Pennsylvania.
Even in Pennsylvania, exactly. You know, I know a person that I'm helping and supporting running for state senator. Well, actually, he was running for Congress, and then he decided to run for state senator because he got the line. But even when he got the line, he got no help with the locals filing the petitions. So now he had to go out, and now, thank God, he's going to be on the sample ballot. But the own internal GOP, okay, go for state senator, he had no opposition, and they still didn't help. So, you know, I'm glad that you're raising this issue up because, like I said, this corruption is systemic within the GOP party. And even if we look at Ronna McDaniels, her uncle is Rhino Mitt Romney. We can't get any more establishment swamp than that. Okay?
Yep.
We need new leadership from the top down. And we need leadership that has integrity, has moral values, anti-corruption, and wants to be the American First Party for we the people and not for political power, money, jobs, and things of that nature, because we're hurting the American people by this political corruption, whether it's within the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. So I'm calling out all people that serve within these parties to call out their local chairmanship, their local party. Read your bylaws. You know, unfortunately, I got pissed off as the chair in the third largest city, and I walked away. But I'm still trying to participate now nationally. And, you know, it's ironic. I didn't realize how systemic local corruption is across the country until I started doing a national podcast of interviewing candidates all across the country. And, Max, it seems like it has gotten even worse these past 2 election cycles. And it's really
absolutely.
sad.
I mean, they've been doing it for so long, and right now, I don't know if it's arrogance, if it's they just been doing it for so long that they just don't care. But I mean,
all the above.
It's not new. It's not new to the political arena. North Carolina, found out from a viable source and whatnot, who's helped with campaigns in like 13 or 16 states. He said North Carolina's GOP is one of the most corrupt in the nation. And so I'm doing what I'm doing. I mean, it's hard because from day one, I've refused special interest and dirty lobbyist money because I don't believe that politicians should be bought and paid for. I believe that if you're going to go represent the people, you need to only receive in-kind contributions from the people. And I talked to somebody who's a business person, and they're like, well, how's that work? Da-da-da. I was like, think of it this way. I'm a businessman. Think of it as a stock, all right? If you spend $100 on a rhino establishment who takes hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars over the course of years from these special interest and lobbyist firms, you spend $100, you're getting 0.00001% of stock in that Congress. You spend $100 with someone like me, you're getting 1, 2, 3 shares of a solid stock. That's the way I word it from a business standpoint. But I mean, I'll go back to Rouser. I mean, his record, what they don't want people to know is, one, he's one of the 135 rhinos that voted for the red flag laws, the National Defense Authorization Act, and he said, oh, well, we knew it was going to be taken out in the Senate. And I say, BS. No, you didn't know. You gambled. You gambled with the Second Amendment. You gambled with the American people's civil rights, hoping that Manchin and Sinema would side with you. Because one day on the wrong side of the bed and be like, no. And then who do you got as a deciding vote? Kamala Harris. So it's that he voted against the Honor Our Pact Act in the House. The only Republicans that voted for the Honor Our Pact Act were the military guys that it served that are sitting in Congress. The Honor Our Pact Act would give the VA the funds and ability to help with the burn pits and everything from Afghanistan and Iraq for these combat vets that are suffered with respiratory illnesses, with rare diseases and cancers that have come from these burn pits. I have a personal friend that died with an extremely rare case of cancer as a direct link to these burn pits. But it also would help with the people from the Vietnam era with Agent Orange and all the other illnesses that came out of that who have been denied their claims. The reason it's called an Honor Our Pact Act is it's finally going to honor the commitment the American government made to the veterans, men and women who went overseas and fought for this country, to finally honor the 60-year dereliction by Congress commitment to the veterans. And Rouser was one of the ones that voted against it. So there's that. He said the reason for it was, he said, it's too expensive. That's interesting considering you voted yes on $1.3 trillion in small business coronavirus killing stimulus package. You voted in the 115th Congress on House Resolution Bill 1370, which is $81 billion Obamacare slush fund, where part of that went to Planned Parenthood. So you're supposed to be a conservative Christian constitutional guy, but you voted against Second Amendment rights, you voted to fund Planned Parenthood, and you voted against our veterans. If there's one issue in this race, or in general, that's not Republican or Democrat, it's giving veterans, they're the one group in this society that should be deserving of what was promised to them. There's obviously others. I'm saying if we had to pick one group, I think the veterans that have signed that blank check to Uncle Sam to up and including their very life, and they come back and they're sick from serving this country, they need to be taken care of. We have earmarked this year $58 billion to go overseas to 180-plus countries, the vast majority of which doesn't do anything, or they don't support us, and they just embezzle that money or use it to attack our allies. I have a bill that would actually put a 4-year moratorium freeze on all humanitarian aid spending and military aid spending unless a nation-state meet 2 out of 3 criteria for humanitarian aid, and they have to meet all 3 for military aid, which they have to benefit us as America geopolitically, economically, or militarily. If they don't meet 2 of those thresholds or 3 of those thresholds, you don't get any humanitarian aid, which would essentially cut the 180-something down to like 12 to 20. So, because we have a deficit we can't pay back, we're printing more money than there ever in our history, with inflation the way it is, killing our Keystone Pipeline deal, but letting Russia open theirs up. Now we're buying oil at an exorbitant amount in cost from Iran, OPEC. Like, how is this good for America? I'm the only one. Rhino Rouser is supposed to be the agricultural guy, and North Carolina's biggest product for our GDP is agriculture, specifically tobacco, which has been on a 20-year decline. But
we're going to take a quick station break for our listeners, and we'll be right back.
Representative David Rouser has betrayed conservative values. Rouser is anti-term limits and voted for wasteful liberal spending, funding Planned Parenthood, red flag laws, and voted against veteran benefits. My name is Max Beckwith. I am a small business owner and U.S. Marine, and I am running to replace Rouser as your next representative. Rouser refuses to debate me to defend his record. Visit max4congress.net to learn more and vote Beckwith on May 17th. I am Max Beckwith, candidate for U.S. House District 7, and I approve this message. Paid for and authorized by Max Beckwith for Congress.
Okay, we're back. This is American First Patriot Podcast. Defending freedom and liberty is our motto. We put God first and politics second. We are proud and honored to have in the studio today my friend, American First Patriot convict, veteran, and corruption fighter, Max Beckwith. Max, we got about 9 minutes left. I would definitely like you to come back on to the show and give us an update once you have an update, because this issue is a national issue. It's a systemic issue of the corruption within the GOP party, and God bless you for having the courage to stand up and push back against the gorilla in the room. So, go ahead, I'll let you finish up. And if you want to talk about some other issues, I think you were talking about our reckless spending, or the voting of the reckless spending of the person that you're running against. And you were talking about how you were going to put in place a bill that would be 2 or 3 requirements that would require military or world aid assistance. Yeah, so it would be a 4-year moratorium on all humanitarian military aid unless countries meet 2 out of 3 requirements for humanitarian aid and all 3 requirements to get rid of military aid, which is to benefit America geopolitically, economically, and militarily. Another bill that I was talking about before we went to the break was my incumbent, Rhino Rouser. He's supposed to be the agricultural guy, but yet most people don't know, Americans, we don't own 60% of our own private or commercial farming land. China owns like 8%, I think, of it, and then Bill Gates owns like 52%, but who owns Bill Gates? China. So I actually have a bill which would actually add our private and commercial farming land to our national resource package, which would prevent hostile actors or any foreign actors from buying up our private and commercial farming land. And the bill would eminent domain all that land that is owned by those hostile actors away from them, put it back on at the free market at a fair market value, so the local farmers and people can actually take back control of our production capability. Because if we can secure our energy grid, we can secure our border, but if we can't feed our people, because all China's got to do is call Bill Gates and be like, hey, don't plant nothing this year. What happens when 60% of America isn't growing crops or raising cattle or doing anything else? We'll found out on the Eastern Front. We'll starve. So that's my thing. Like I said, Max Beckwith.
May 17th is the primary day. If anybody in North Carolina, 7th Congressional District, or if anybody in North Carolina who knows anybody who lives in North Carolina, 7th Congressional District, get the message out, do the research, vote Beckwith May 17th. My website is max4congress.net. I do not take special interest money. I do not take lobbyist money. I'm 100% grassroots, so I'm still collecting donations to help run ads, to try to get the message out. So if you can contribute, please do. But what we need most of all is we need volunteers to get out to these polling places and inform the voters of what's going on.
Amen. Max, thank you so much again for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on my show and for the courage to stand up and fight back against the gorilla in the room, the GOP party, against systemic corruption with our own party. You're right. If we don't address corruption within our own party, we should not be pointing the finger at another. Thank you very much for taking the time to come on the show. Please keep us updated. We look forward to having you back on the show.
Thank you, Chauncey. It's always a pleasure, and I'll definitely will keep you updated.
Okay, you got it. We're going to take another quick commercial break, and we'll be right back to close out the show.
Representative David Rouser has betrayed conservative values. Rouser is anti-term limits and voted for wasteful liberal spending, funding Planned Parenthood, red flag laws, and voted against veteran benefits. My name is Max Beckwith. I am a small business owner and U.S. Marine, and I am running to replace Rouser as your next representative. Rouser refuses to debate me to defend his record. Visit max4congress.net to learn more and vote Beckwith on May 17th. I am Max Beckwith, candidate for U.S. House, District 7, and I approve this message. Paid for and authorized by Max Beckwith for Congress.
This is American First Patriot Podcast host Chauncey Brown, back to you. You know, we were blessed to have Max on the show today. The courage he's displayed, party corruption in our own party, is extremely important and monumental. I am aware of many candidates across this country getting the shaft, if you will, from local GOP parties. And this must stop. And I hope that the motion that Max has filed, the charges that he's leveled, the U.S. Department of Justice, will be heard. These people need to be called out. As a former municipal chair, I am very much aware of systemic corruption within local and county and state GOP parties. Take all of us. The people that are conservative, Republicans, American First, we the people, are going to be the ones to fight back against our own party's corruption. So we should take a pause before we start throwing arrows at the Democrats. We need to focus on our in-house and taking care of the challenges that we have within our party today, because it is affecting all, if not most, of the American First candidates running in 2022. National GOP Chair Ronald McDaniels has been an embarrassment. You lost the national election to Joe Biden, or you helped steal the election with the cooperation of the Democrats, because there is no way in hell that Joe Biden got the most amount of votes in any other president in history and more votes than Barack Obama. You'd have to be a complete idiot to believe that. Ran 3 times as president, lost the election. I don't think he had more than 200 people at one rally, and he spent most of his time during the campaign trail in the basement. Fast forward, we see the wreckage that he's caused after the first week, slashing jobs, 15,000 workers, the Alaskan pipeline. That's just to name a few. You know, we talk about the $14 billion, okay, that they sent over to Ukraine. Max was talking about the billions of dollars we're sending to aid to these countries, yet we have soldiers coming home, starving, don't have a place to live, homeless. I believe that anybody that serves this country should never have to worry about a meal, a place to live, transportation, health care at a minimum. This country and the hypocrisy of this country, the politicians a cow down. So these lobbyists and these big corporations, we must uncover this political corruption across the board because the people in this country are not being served. Today's America is serving illegal immigrants more than they're serving the people of America. These elections, these midterms elections are crucial, ladies and gentlemen, that we vote and push back and pray to God that we're going to have a fair election. Yes, I'm concerned, like all of you. Are we going to get a fair election? That should not stop you from voting. You are blessed with the privilege to vote. Please exercise your right to vote and vote for American First candidates who want to work for you, we the people, and not special interest groups or lobbyists. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the American First Patriot podcast show. Defending freedom and liberty is our motto. We're here every Monday and Wednesday from 7 to 8. Today was a special with Max uncovering corruption in North Carolina's local and state GOP. That's why we were here today, and we thank all of our listeners for tuning in. I also want to thank our supporters on Twitter. We've only launched a Patriot podcast a couple of months ago, and we're almost 8,000. If we haven't eclipsed 8,000 followers on Twitter, I haven't checked all the other platforms, but I cannot thank you enough for the amazing outpouring support of this podcast from the American people. We're here for you, the people, we the people, constitutionalists, American First, liberty, freedom, that we are here defending. That is our motto, and putting God first and politics second. We stand by those principles in order to guide our steps that God wants us to do, his work, ladies and gentlemen. So this election in 2022 is extremely important. So please come out and vote. And everyone, if you have an opportunity, please consider, we don't have any big corporations donating to us. We're little people, and we're just trying to get the message out. So whatever help you can send us, USA First Podcast, that's at Cash App, or you can PayPal us, American First Patriot Podcast. Your small donations are extremely appreciated and also necessary so we can continue to be a voice for we the people in the nation. We will not take money for big corporations because we don't want our voice and the people's voice and the candidates that we have and the people on this show to be silenced. So this is the time that we all need to come together as a unified front to fight back against what this government and this administration is doing to our country. And our first order of business in doing so is to vote everyone out. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this afternoon. Don't forget, Friday, we thank all those who have served and who are serving and are deployed. We keep them in our prayers. Everyone have a blessed and a safe weekend. God bless you all. Remember, keep the faith. Good afternoon now.
Representative David Rouser has betrayed conservative values. Rouser is anti-term limits and voted for wasteful liberal spending, funding Planned Parenthood, red flag laws, and voted against veteran benefits. My name is Max Beckwith. I am a small business owner and U.S. Marine, and I am running to replace Rouser as your next representative. Rouser refuses to debate me to defend his record. Visit max4congress.net to learn more and vote Beckwith on May 17th. I am Max Beckwith, candidate for U.S. House, District 7, and I approve this message. Paid for and authorized by Max Beckwith for Congress.